you get any responses? Did you get any responses on the property? No, to the so I don't know if you have that proclamation again.
What's that?
Yeah,
it's hey.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Where's the proclamation?
She didn't? Just
Yeah. Can you even say that?
wasn't enough.
I was just asking so he could say it.
This is
I guess it was. Listen,
Never have gotten that one of those letters. That's right.
That's just technology.
Yeah, I really would.
That is fair, it is. That's how you realize damage. Good. I've learned friend is. That's what my phone keeps telling me. I don't know. That's right.
Mother. That's your phone. Good
Device now.
I was just gonna ask you what's wrong with it. Yeah, it's the only Band-Aid that I have in the house.
Yeah, but it's all
Electrical thing.
Yeah, recharge.
Yeah, man, it's a big old blister.
The car is brown, except he says it's a brown car.
There's a lot of dogs that would like to get
Oh, it's easy that way.
I'm not gonna ask any questions.
Really?
Okay. Roll call. Christina. Or Shannon. Excuse me.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Here.
Commissioner Butcher,
Here.
Mayor Trujillo.
Here.
Commissioner Campos.
Here.
Commissioner Gandy.
Here.
Commissioner Gandy will lead us in prayer and pledge.
You bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this wonderful day. Lord, we just thank you for the blessing of the rain. Lord God, we just thank you for the opportunity to come and serve our community. Lord, I just pray that you would give us the wisdom and forethought as we conduct the city's business. Lord God, we just thank you for this wonderful country we live in. And Lord, I just pray that you put your hand of blessing upon us. In Jesus Christ's name we pray.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
We have a motion.
Mr. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as submitted, except for one change. The resolution 2019-03, the approval of advertisement for ordinance that will amend Title 8, Chapter 8.20, fireworks and explosives of the Lovington Municipal Code. I'd like to move that to a non-action item, please.
Second. Had a motion second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have another motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for considerations of the minutes of August 26, 2019.
Second. Had a motion second by Commissioner Bernard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Go ahead, read a proclamation off. You guys like to come forward? We got Zayden here with us. He's going to receive a proclamation for us today. So I'm going to have to roll my tongue a little bit on this, so it's a little tough. Okay, Lissencephaly Awareness Day. Whereas an estimated less than 1,000 cases worldwide have been diagnosed, and many individuals are undiagnosed with lissencephaly, a disorder characterized by absence of incomplete development of portions of the brain. And whereas this is a chronic condition that may cause epilepsy, muscle spasm, paralyzed, low vision, and severe medical complication. And whereas patients with this condition often have to learn to live with continued therapy and medical expenses. And whereas it may take years to receive a diagnosis, and medical professionals frequently are inadequately educated on the diagnosis and treatment. And whereas increased awareness and expanded knowledge of this realities of life with this disorder will allow the community at large to better support people who struggle with the challenges of this condition. And now, therefore, I, David A. Trujillo, Mayor of Lovington, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim September 8, 2009 as Lissencephaly Awareness Day. Okay. Commissioner, yes, sir.
I'd like to give you a round of applause for saying that correctly. Very well done.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Commissioner staff report. Wyatt?
Mayor and Commissioners, just to give you an update, our CDBG project, we are on the final week of it. We should be doing a final punch list and walkthrough by the end of the week, and everything should be final on that. Moving forward to, we're still waiting on our Commercial Street Phase 2, which goes from Van Buren all the way to Mexico 18, kind of dead ends at the Boomers, or it goes on to New Mexico 18. We're still waiting on some stuff back from the state and the final contract on that. Other than that, that is it.
Questions by the board? Steve?
No, I don't have it.
Shannon? Commissioner Sanchez? Commissioner Bernard? Commissioner?
Just one small item, and I didn't bring it up during the consideration of the minutes approval, but I'd like to make a note of it and discussing with Patrick. There's, in the minutes themselves, there's wording that says a certain commissioner so moved to approve a resolution. And it actually should read that we move to consider that resolution, because we don't even know what that resolution is until it's brought in front of the board. So just for future reference, that should probably read Commissioner Campos moved to consider approval of a specific resolution. See what I'm saying? Just a minor detail that I think we need to get it right. Does that make sense? Are you in accordance with that?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Thank you. Commissioner Gandy?
No, sir.
Chief?
Nothing.
James?
No, sir.
Patrick?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to public comment. Mata?
Hi guys, thank you so much for having us. We just wanted to formally invite everyone to the ribbon cutting for the Storybook Park tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, we've been reconstructing the employee parking lot at the library into a cute little park. And it's been going on for 2 years now, so we're super excited to finally be finalizing that project and completely opening it up to the community. We're really excited. We have the police department tomorrow going to be cooking for us. We'll have burgers and like chips and drinks, and we're going to have New Mexico Resiliency Alliance, which was one of the grantors, as well as the Lee County Electric Co-op having representation there. We'd love to have you guys there. Please, please help us spread the word. We're guessing 70 people, so we're gonna have food for 70 people, so we really need everyone to come on out. And then I also wanted to take this time to remind you guys that we have our annual site visit with New Mexico Main Street on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. It'll take place at the Troy Harris Center. And this is part of our requirement in order to remain an accredited Main Street community. They come down here and kind of talk to you guys about how we're doing as a program, any things you guys would like to see improvements on, or any questions, concerns you may have. You're more than welcome to share that with them at that time. We won't be present, so it's not like, oh no, they're going to hear everything we're saying or anything like that. This is really just a chance for us to talk about how we're doing and hopefully improve on what we can. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else with public comment? Okay. Moving on to non-action items. James.
Mayor and Commissioners, our first non-action item tonight is just discussion of our trash collection. Right now, our current contract for these services is with Waste Management, and this contract actually expires on October 31st of 2019. So we have two options available to us. Our first option is refuse collection is one of those things that is actually exempt from the procurement code that's established by the state of New Mexico. Of course, the administrative code requires that as a city that we provide or contract out for these services. So this is one particular option that we can look at. I did provide in your packets the determination, I believe also copies of each one of those codes and statutes. Option two would be to issue a request for proposals for these services for refuse collection for residential and commercial service. This would require, and actually probably either option would require, an extension of our current contract with Waste Management. I did discuss this with Dan Darnell, who's actually with Waste Management in our audience tonight, and they are willing to work with us. Of course, option one is just for us to get direction to go direct negotiation with Waste Management to consider, is there anybody who's capable of taking over the 3,500 to 4,000 customer accounts that we currently have for refuse collection. Option two does provide for more transparency. We would go through an RFP collection or an RFP process in which we would publicly advertise this and invite others to provide their responses through that RFP. We would then evaluate that RFP and award it at a later time. But we have the ability through that RFP or even through direct negotiation to look at a couple of different options as how we move forward as a city. So what we're asking for tonight is essentially just some type of direction from the commission, whether they would like us to go into direct negotiation or to issue an RFP.
Go ahead.
Is there anybody else available that would be able to assist us in that service or not?
Not
There's
that
none,
I'm.
I would just say, go ahead.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that we have, there's some other collection services. I know GWC, they do a lot of your commercial roll-offs. There is another vendor, but they're based out of Texas. I believe it's Tomahawk Disposal. They could potentially, but I don't know that they would actually be able to ramp up in time to meet our needs. Because we're looking at, at least 3,500 households, not to mention our commercial customers.
Would they stay about the same price?
That would depend on the scope of services that we ask. There's a couple of different options that we have. Would we want to continue billing from the city? Or would we want Waste Management to take over 100% of the billing and customer service aspect of that? A couple of different scenarios as far as looking at it. There could potentially be a savings to the customer as well, but we would have to actually just look at that during the negotiation process.
Well, I would just think it because the gas prices are not as high as they were maybe before. Maybe they've gone down a little bit. That would help them to be able to come here a little cheaper. Maybe they would give us a break. That's what I was thinking.
James, on the negotiation board, how about if it takes up to 90 days and our contract ends here in October, how are we going to?
We would just have a temporary contract extension with Waste Management to where, and even visiting with Dan about this because it is short notice. This did sneak up on us. We did think that we had until 2021. However, actually in Las Cruces at Municipal League, Dan informed me, no, it's 2019. So in either scenario, we both have discussed this and even doing a temporary extension over a current contract until December 31st of this year. That would give us sufficient time to negotiate directly or to issue an RFP and evaluate it in a fair process.
One other question. How about if the negotiations fail and we go out for RFP? Would that be considerable?
Well, Mayor, Commissioners, I don't think that the negotiations would fail because we are required to provide this service to the citizens. So we would be able to arrive at an agreement either way.
James, I know we get complaints on every issue in the department from time to time, but overall, are you satisfied with the service that Waste Management is providing to the city of Lovington?
So, Mayor Commissioner Campos, one of the things, I believe it was back in April, Waste Management, per their contract, they have to send out and poll customers as far as satisfaction. They received, I want to say it's between 250 to 300 responses on this, and actually satisfaction rated high on this survey. I believe I forwarded a copy of that to everyone, and I would make it available to anybody who would want to see that document. But I've noticed that with the reroute that we did do to try to smooth things, to get a more consistent pickup schedule, and the addition of another truck, while it did have its obstacles at first, Waste Management and Dan's crew, they have worked diligently to address that. So we still do have some missed pickups. However, they have not escalated to the level to where I'm having to directly deal with those. I noticed over the past several months, though I can't remember the last time that I actually had to have it escalated to my level to where a customer had complained. So overall, I think the new route schedule has improved the service delivery.
I think they're doing a good job that they have for me, so appreciate it.
I agree.
And I do too, they're doing an awesome job, so let's just roll with the temporary and let's
Roll with the trash.
keep it going.
One other thing, James, the length of the contract, I'd be kind of like, I don't want a lengthy contract like we had last time. And I can understand the ramp up because that was new to the community. Waste Management was moving in, but that was a long contract. So I'd like to see something a little bit shorter.
Yes, sir.
On the per year, not so much per year, but not as lengthy as this last.
Toby Herring.
So,
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion?
What was the last time frame of this last contract?
What, 4 to 4, I believe, so it was total 8 years.
Total of 8, yes.
I'm for option one.
So I take it you would like staff to work with Waste Management to negotiate
With the
And of
option
course,
one.
we will bring back the final contract to commission.
So I guess we'll direct you as option one. Is that what you need from us?
Yes, sir.
I think that's what the board desires, so we can go with option one, Chief.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Will do, sir. So our next item that we did request, this is that resolution that we requested to have moved to a non-action item. Reason for this is that scheduling wise, I had anticipated the fire chief and our fire marshal to be here because they do enforce this ordinance. However, based on discussions with the public and complaint driven, and also looking at our fireworks ordinance, we do need to amend it either way. Because right now, as we had discussed at our previous meeting, it does conflict with itself. So back in 2006, if you recall, the city opted to remove the safe and sane language, which safe and sane bans permanently or restricts the sale and use of ground audibles and aerial devices within the city limits. So in 2006, the commission did change and remove a portion of that language, but we have other areas within our code where it actually still restricts those. We have a couple of typos, and then also some citizens had requested this, and also to help address the noise complaints. So I know the fire department and I have gone through this and come up with a couple of different options for the commission to consider before we produce some type of an ordinance to fix our code. So to start off, and there is a packet that you have within the commission packet that does highlight the different changes and options that we have. So as far as definition updates, we did expand on the aerial device to comply with the New Mexico Fireworks Licensing and Safety Act to remove any potential confusion over exactly what an aerial device is. Also, exactly what is a ground audible device. Ground audible device is actually the chasers and firecrackers as specified within that New Mexico Fireworks Licensing and Safety Act. This is, ground audibles and aerial devices are the only types of firecrackers or fireworks that a commission or a city or county government is able to restrict. Typically in the past, the only time that since 2006, the only time that we've had these restrictions have been during periods of drought when a drought proclamation's been enacted. Looking back over the past 5 years, we did enact a drought proclamation last year in 2018. However, that was lifted because we did receive a significant amount of rainfall right before the holiday. The next section that we have, of course, permissible fireworks. This actually is language that's taken directly out of state statute, the Fireworks Licensing and Safety Act. So updating that to make sure that we are allowing legal for sale, and then adding the definition of wildlands within our current ordinance. Even though we are a municipality, we do have several areas within the city limits which is undeveloped property or wildlands, and it does pose a safety risk. Other changes within there that are highlighted in red in that draft that we have, or discussion draft, is just punctuation and formatting changes. So one of the areas that we have a conflict in is the current 8.20.030, where it requires a permit. The current language still bans aerials and ground audibles. So in the event that the commission would like to remain remain with the intent of the 2006 ordinance, we would need to update the language to where no person may sell, hold for sale, import, distribute, or offer for sale any firework in the city unless such person has obtained an appropriate permit. If they would like to go with a safe and sane style ordinance, you would not need to change this particular section. As far as enforcement, of course, we have the fire chief is listed as this. However, we're suggesting that we add or designee so it's clear that the fire marshal or anyone else is allowed to enforce this particular ordinance. This is the only section in this our code that lists who enforces this. So as you know, enforcement, not necessarily during the sale. All of our fireworks vendors work very well and very close with the fire department. It's just the end user. That's where enforcement becomes an issue, and it's very staff intensive. A lot of manpower and hours are utilized However, and this is a question that I haven't been able to visit with Patrick about, is if we do use that or designee, would this allow police officers who are actually out on patrol to enforce this particular code as well? Because this really, there is civil and criminal issues listed within our particular city code, but the only way that we would be able to increase enforcement is to actually rely also on our police officers to help assist the fire department and hopefully reduce some of our overtime, but they all have their other job responsibilities as well. The second section is our unauthorized fireworks section. So this section of the code was adopted in 2006 and changed to remove the safe and sane language. So we have a couple of different options, of course. We have all permissible fireworks. You would be able to continue to use the same language. However, if a commission would like to go in the direction of a safe and sane, it would specifically list that you would not be able to use or possess for retail sale, sell, or offer to the public or use any of your aerials or ground audibles.
James,
Sir.
if you might, could you go back 2 slides? I have a question. Right here, when it says at the bottom,
Yes.
any firework in the city unless such person has first obtained the appropriate permit. So who would be able to apply for that, and what's the criteria for approving that?
So this is, Mayor and Commissioners, this is actually language that's required for somebody to sell fireworks. You don't have to have a permit to use them, but in order for somebody to sell these at retail, they have to apply for a permit through the city as well as through the state. So that is where they obtain that permit. So when Mrs. Price wants to sell fireworks, she has to renew her fireworks license or her permit with the state every year as well as with the city.
So right now, the city of Hobbs has sane and safe in place, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what about the Lee County?
Lee County,
Has no restrictions.
Lee County does not.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
So, and that is one thing I would like to point out is that, so for instance, with the city of Hobbs, they do have a safe and sane ordinance. There's nothing that says somebody can't go outside the city limits to a vendor who actually has a permit through the state and through the county and purchase fireworks that are prohibited within the city limits. They can sell it to somebody, and then whenever they bring them into the city limits and use them, that's where the violation occurs. Times of authorized use. This was one of the issues that we were facing. So, as far as customer complaints or citizen complaints. So right now, the state actually identifies the dates of sale. However, the time of use is actually established by city code. And per the state statute, we look at July 4th. They can start beginning selling those on June 20th, and then it ends on July 6th. Chinese New Year, September 16th and May 5th, they can start selling those 3 days prior, and then also on the date of the holiday, and then on New Year's 6 days prior to, and then on the actual New Year's Day holiday, they can actually sell these. Traditionally, what we've had is, and actually in our current city code, during the authorized times of use are from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Typically, unless a drought persists, they actually authorize the use, even though our code says you can only use them on July 4th. Typically, when we don't have a active drought proclamation, the fire department has used the clause at other times authorized by the fire chief to allow individuals to use those. So there's 2 different options that we can look at to address some of the noise complaints that we receive every year, if commission would like to. So option 1, if all fireworks are allowed, we simply change the times of use except on the actual holiday. So let's say on July 4th, Chinese New Year, September 16th, May 5th, they could still utilize these from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. On New Year's, it would start at 7 a.m. on 12/31, then they would actually get to use them until 1 a.m. on January 1st. During the actual times of sale, but not the actual recognized holiday, the time that you could use them would be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So for instance, the July 4th holiday, you would be able to use fireworks if this option was allowed or enacted from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. June 20th to July 3rd, and then on July 5th through the 6th. On July 4th, it would be from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then, of course, any other times that we would be authorized by the fire chief. For instance, we have fireworks at some of our football games. That's one of those other times that are authorized by the chief. Option 2, of course, if it was a safe and sane style ordinance that the commission went to, the noise complaints would pretty much diminish because of the lack of ground audibles and the loud areas being utilized. As far as restricted areas, technically right now, if you really look at our code, which is right here on the right, those 6 areas, I don't know of another area you could actually utilize them in within the city limits. It actually prohibits those in residential areas. Speaking with Chief Lizardo and Fire Marshal Brown, they both say it might not be a bad idea to remove the residential prohibition because it's not feasible. It's hard to enforce. We simply don't have enough staff between police and fire to patrol I think it's 112 miles of streets that we have in those, especially predominantly residential areas. However, we would add within this prohibiting it next to or within wildland areas or also any government premises. So the only option that individuals would have right now is on parking lots in commercial areas that are privately owned. And I don't know of many property owners who would want people to just start shooting fireworks there. So that's one of the recommendations that the fire department has made.
James, would
Sir.
schools fall under one of these categories?
Actually, right now as it reads, other area, no, schools are not prohibited.
It's probably need to be.
So,
We can do that.
okay. Move along to, we do have one section in the code which is not in compliance with state statute that would require a simple change, mainly adding the 3 days preceding. Article 2 deals with the drought proclamation. In the event that a safe and sane is adopted, this section actually is no longer needed. However, if we still want to continue to use or allow the use of aerials and ground audibles, we would still require this section, and any of the changes simply would be for typos and just some formatting issues that we've identified. That is really the end. Of course, this document is available to anybody. You can go to the website and look within the agenda packet. We don't even have an ordinance available yet because we did want to have the commission to look at this document that we produced as directed at our last meeting. We did want to have the ability to advertise an ordinance in the event that the commission wanted to move forward with it. However, I would like to have the fire department present to be able to offer any questions or input that they may have. But, is there any questions that the commission may have?
These are answered mine.
Good to go, James. Thank you. Okay, moving on to action items. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for approval of ordinance 572, amendments, the title 2, Division 4, Municipal Court, Chapter 2.60.60E.
A motion second. James?
Mayor, Commissioners, this item, this ordinance has been advertised as required. If you recall, this changes the municipal code to reflect the records retention schedule that we have. That changes the amount of time that the municipal court must maintain those records to 3 years instead of the 5.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to consider Resolution 2019-102, authorizing the transfer of surplus equipment to the Sierra Vista Hospital ambulance service.
Second. Motion second, James.
Mayor, Commissioners, with the delivery of the brand-new ambulance, we're able to actually dispose of one of those assets. We have been speaking with Representative Gallegos and Representative Dow, and Sierra Vista Hospital is located over in Truth or Consequences, and they are in need of units. Theirs are excessively high mileage, and we actually see more benefit by transferring this equipment to another government entity than just selling it at auction.
Discussion by the board. There no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we consider resolution 219.
Nope.
No. Council.
Huh?
Council.
Hey, Vic.
Payable. Oh,
It's
no.
their department.
Okay. So we consider accounts payable.
Second.
Got a motion second. James? I guess Gary's not here, so James.
Yeah. So, I guess I would stand for any questions the commission may have. I mean, we have several, I know Constructors, Inc., that was a progress payment on the CDBG project, as well as purchasing some material such as cold mix and different things for street repair. Elin for $45,833. That is actually a annual subscription that is budgeted for. It's the Estacado Llano Information Network, the library, through the library. Goserico, of course, is the recorder for the police department. It's a maintenance contract. Let's see, Candy Cane Well Service in the amount of $19,924. That was a replacement pump for well 31 in our water well field. Huh? And well 14, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then we have fuel bill. Pettigrew and Associates, that was for civil inspections and construction administration for the CDBG project as required. Pure Operations LLC, this was an upgrade to our chlorination system out at the wastewater treatment plant. Ramirez and Sons for $85.80 on the last page. That's actually the payment. They finally sent us an invoice for the work on Avenue K. We will be receiving 50% of that back from the railroad. And any other questions?
Good to go, pay the bills.
Is there any questions by the board? No further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 10-15-1 New Mexico State annotated 1978 subsection H8 regarding the purchase, acquisition, or disposition of real property or water rights, the evaluation of RFP responses for sale of property at Main and Harrison, and an undeveloped portion of right-of-way and median located in the 1400 and 1500 block of North Main Street.
Second.
A motion second, Shannon, roll call.
Commissioner Gandy,
Aye.
Mayor Trujillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Campos,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Aye.
Commissioner Butcher.
Aye.
We are in closed session.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go back into regular session to include that the matters discussed in the closed session were limited only to those specified in the motion for closure and that no action was taken.
Second.
Got a motion second, roll call. Shannon?
Mayor Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Gandy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Compost.
Yes.
We are in regular session. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-104, authorizing the sale of real property, northeast corner of Main Street and East Harrison Avenue to True Brew LLC.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution, to approve Resolution 2019-105, authorizing the sale of real property, the undeveloped portion of right-of-way and median located on the west side of the 1400 and 1500 block of North Main to E. Valencia Investments, LLC.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we